Welcome to the ReaderHouse Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. Join us here every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or listen to our podcast anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first. Amy Tiemeyer is retired from the military in Washington State, and she puts her time to good use and hopes to inspire others to do the same with her book, Stories of a Volunteeraholic, Moving the Needle of Impact, One Person's Journey. So where does your journey begin?
So after I finished my master's degree, I wasn't one of those people that was like, oh, I've always wanted to write a book. I'm not. Some of my business circles, and I talk about like all my volunteer stories, and people kept on suggesting, well, I think you should write a book. I think you should write a book about that. And so I finally decided, especially with COVID, where I felt like there was so much dissension and so much just division and anger. And yet there's amazing volunteers doing just like, I feel like we pivoted. We did such extraordinary things that would not have been thought of had we not had necessity.
For instance?
For instance, we always did this Thanksgiving dinner for new recruits here at Joint Base Lewis McChord. And we were going to, usually a university actually hosts it, but they were closed down. So then I had a restaurant owner, a local restaurant family, was like, okay, so this is what we're going to do. We're going to take half the soldiers in this, and they have restaurants in DuPont that are right across the street from each other. So we could do half the soldiers here, half the soldiers there. And then the governor shut all restaurants down. But they also shut down half of the dining facilities. And the base commander shut the dining facility closest to where all the new recruits were going to be because they knew that we were taking care of them. But it, just complicated everything. But what was so beautiful about it is the family came in on Thanksgiving morning, made all the food for about 150 soldiers. We packed it up into my Forester and I took it to their barracks.
Wow.
And so they still had a full turkey dinner with pumpkin pie, knew the community loved them. Never in my wildest dreams or any, would I have figured out how to pivot and pivot again and then pivot some more.
Right.
But also the family that cooked for them, like they didn't bring any employees in. They did it just the family. And it was so beautiful, but people don't know.
Yeah. I mean, I think there was a lot of good works going on. I mean, I was in New York City at the time, and there was a lot of people reaching out to help others. And it was like, as much as we heard about the division and as much as we heard about the anger on the grassroots level, there was a lot of kindness going on that we didn't hear about, But I suspect your volunteerism started before this.
Yeah, it did. Like I grew up volunteering, and a lot of people don't have that experience. So it was modeled to me from my mom and dad, my grandma. And like when I went in the Army, my dad said, volunteer for everything. Most people are like, don't volunteer for anything. And he's like, volunteer for everything, because you're going to be voluntold to do the things you don't want to do.
Right.
And if you're always doing, helping out, then you're not who they're going to go to for the worst jobs, actually.
Right.
And you enjoy it more. It could be the worst job for someone else. But for me, I love cleaning things or helping with different things. And so I did. I grew up volunteering, and it is definitely where I get my joy. And so my book is written for volunteers. So it's not written like for board members or necessarily a fundraising tool. There's a little bit of event stuff in it, but it really is, I'm hoping, written to the volunteer. A good news story. And I would love to do subsequent books as like you send in your favorite volunteer story. And then we could do volunteeraholics in children welfare or volunteeraholics, in um, cleaning up neighborhoods, or, you know what I mean?
Yeah. So tell me about, the kinds of volunteerism you talk about in your book. Like, where do you take us from when you started volunteering?
So there is a lot of military stories of volunteering, like with Welcome Homes, because it's such a military place. So I actually had like two volunteer worlds that didn't really communicate.
Mm-hmm.
I did after school programs as an alternative to violence. I ran suspended expelled programs for two schools. Like, I really, really love working with kids and getting them in safe spaces for them to be creative and have opportunity. And then I did my military service organizations kind of on the other side. And my kids programs, none of them even knew I was a veteran or about these other things until the Travis Manning Foundation, because they teach character courses to kids in middle school and high school. So I show kind of both sets, like working with kids in schools, working with kids who have just challenging circumstances.
Mm-hmm.
Little kids love me and I love them too, but they do tend to suck my life force. I like the middle school and high school where other people are like, oh my God, I could not imagine working with those kids. I'm like, hey, I've been in court with them. I've been in, all sorts of things, felt perfectly comfortable and energized when I leave their space.
Right.
Because I know that's where I'm supposed to be.
How long were you in the military?
Oh, I served 3 years in the Army, and then I got out and I actually went in the Navy Reserves and served about 4 more.
So you did volunteering while you were in the service. And then when you got out of the service, what would be a standout for you in all of the things that you have done that we're going to read about in your book?
The standout for me actually was I coordinated a zombie apocalypse 5K.
Oh my God, I love that.
And it was to get junior enlisted active in the community and doing stuff. And that was probably one of my standout, most fun events. And I have had people that have bought the book and they're like, oh my God, I asked them what story they like the best. And they're like, zombie apocalypse.
Did you have to dress like a zombie to participate?
You could, but you had a flag football belt with 3 flags. I had zombies that were all throughout the course. So it was not a timed event. And they could only grab 1 flag at a time. You didn't have to run the whole thing. You only had to run when you were getting chased. It's just about bringing your slower friends and family, sacrificing them for your win. And so the mistake I made the first year was I had rangers as the zombies. And people were like, well, zombies are supposed to be slow. And then somebody else goes, plus, rangers will never be the zombies. It's the chemical guys that are going to be the zombies. And I was like, that is so true. But I had survivor medals and death medals, But here's a funny thing. I had a woman that dressed up as she was a pregnant zombie, and she had a stroller too. But it was like you had to be 8 and over just because the makeup was really good. I checked, I'm like, she's like, it's a doll. It's okay. She freaked out the zombies. Like they didn't know whether it was for real or not. I was like, we need to have a costume contest. That was pretty good. Yeah, no, it was fun. Any companies wanted to donate to it. They're like, yes, I will give you backpacks and 10-man tents. And it was way before COVID, but it was a lot of fun. I had a lot of good feedback with it, with, like I said, getting young service members out in the community. It was so good that Joint Base Lewis McChord chose to do their own zombie run, but they did it. I'm not going to say they did a really great job, but their zombie run was on Halloween. I'm like, that's not zombie culture. That's Halloween.
Yeah.
But mine was in June because the zombie apocalypse can happen anywhere.
That's right. At any time. Be careful.
That's right.
That's right.
And yeah, and it was fun. We ended up having the bed of trucks as our stage. We had a stage one year, and it was expensive, complicated, and actually, I think the back of trucks looked better for zombie apocalypse. And so, yeah, it was just fun because I think it wasn't that serious, but it did fill a need of, just getting people to work together.
Did you raise money during any of your volunteer events?
So we, not with that one. I have raised money with a golf tournament, different things like that have helped, like food basket programs, buy glasses for military kids, raise money for service animals, roofs, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
But to me, I think there's something to be said to do something just for, like in the military, they call it esprit de corps, but like community. Mm-hmm. Where I just need to cover costs.
Right. So you get donations to cover costs. That's a great idea. So do you help people in your book? Do you give suggestions as to how you can become involved if you've never volunteered before?
Yep. And I talk about, there's a lot of different motivations for getting involved. And I think it's really important. Like, we have got to stop judging one another, and, how you decide to volunteer. Like, I had somebody last Saturday, she was like, I don't like Reads Across America. Do you know what I could do with that money in so many different circumstances? And I'm like, I understand that, but how people get involved should just be how they get involved. So if you want to save the whales and somebody else wants to clean the mountains and someone else wants to put wreaths on graves of service members, I think we should be able to do it all. Mm-hmm. You just need to go where, so she shouldn't volunteer with Reads Across America because it's not her shtick.
Right. And the funny thing is when you put an event together, I put an event together here after Hurricane Sandy. Long Beach Island was one of the areas decimated along the Jersey Shore. And I got together with some other people. Long story short, we put on like an event and with bands and food and donations, and the whole community came out. People were allowed back on the island in the middle of winter. It was February. The storm happened in October. There had never been so many people on the island at that time before. And not once did somebody say, are you Republican or Democrat?
Right?
Not once. Not once.
Yeah. Like, I think that's the whole point where we need to get. And, oh my goodness, if that's what I would like if we were going into such a scary political season, where if mm-hmm. we can step away from the TV and enjoy each other without needing to worry about it. And I do think one of the things I think is funny, I have friends on both sides.
Sure. Like, we all do.
Really strong friends on both sides. But I truly feel like something were to happen to my husband, because he's still active duty, both groups would be at my house.
Yes.
And I also think it's funny when everybody thinks I like them, and that makes me smile. You know what I mean? But it's my choice whether I share if they're right or wrong.
Right.
And I almost think there's some beauty in not correcting.
Mm-hmm. Just letting it go.
Yeah.
Because you're focused on a common goal. You're volunteering, you're raising money, you're putting an event together, and that's the focus. So nothing else really matters. Right. I have like members of my family. I hate that person because they're flying a Trump flag. Well, if you really got to know that person, you'd probably have a lot in common with them. This is a way to get past that. How are you telling people about it?
Like, I am on Facebook, and I have, I had a real fun book launch at a military bar back in November. That was really, really good. But I've not promoted it. But part of it is because I'm doing the work that I'm doing.
Yeah, but you can bring your book to the places where you're doing the work.
Well, and I will say, so I'm a key spouse for my husband's unit, and I did send the link to, they buy books for service members. And so I am hopefully going to, hopefully she will read the book or listen to part of it and want to, for JBLM, and because JBLM, I'm a civilian Hall of Fame for JBLM. So I'm trying to work that angle. I need to go to Barnes and Noble here in Lakewood and just introduce myself. I have a coworker that just told me this morning that he requested that the Thurston County Library buy my book. And he's going to recommend my book to his cohort and stuff like that. So I am doing some things.
That may be all you need to do. It only takes a spark.
Oh, nice.
And then, you know what I'm saying? I believe that. If you've written a good book, it sounds like you're headed in the right direction right now. And if the county library decides to buy it, then you should follow up and say, hey, I can come in and talk about it.
Right. And like high schoolers have to have a certain amount of volunteerism. And I could talk about all the different types, if you love dogs, if you love cleanups, you love cooking. I mean, there's so many different opportunities.
Yeah, yeah. And, like you said, colleges require kids to volunteer. So this would be a good book for any school, where kids might be looking for something or just don't know where to start,
Mm-hmm.
This could, give light a fire under them. But what a great thing you've done. I wish you all the luck in the world. Thank you so much.
Well, I appreciate you. And yeah.
This is at the core of who we really are.
It is. It really is.
Yeah. All right. You have a great day.
Well, you too. And thank you so much again for your time.
You got it. Bye-bye. Christian Iheanetu started writing short stories in high school, and he has some remarkable experiences to draw on from his time growing up in Nigeria. His book is entitled The Niagara Assignment. Where do you begin?
Like every writer has to come with an idea. Something gives rise to the idea. It could be your personal experience. It could be things you see around you. It could be things you heard from people. So like for my book, some of them are things that I see happen around me.
What kinds of things happening around you?
Well, this is way back in Africa, not really here, but I know the same thing still happen many other places, not just Africa,
Okay.
So when you see subjugation, you see oppression, you see people being subjected to things, they are totally powerless, and it could be from the government of the day. It could be some criminal elements in the system, power hijack. There are things that formed the basis for this novel. Yeah, a lot of criminality, corruption in the system, people being held hostage, people being held captive, and they're powerless, and there's no one to help them to get out of the system. And then this is just the sum total of it.
Where are you from in Africa?
I'm from Nigeria, in Africa. I did grow up in Nigeria. I also did my college here. I had a university degree in economics.
When did you decide it was time to come here?
It's still part of a very bad system. Or people never thrive in a bad system. When the system is so bad and stifling, people don't thrive there. So you look for a place where you thrive, a place you have a conducive environment where you can get the best out of yourself, your creativity, and all the rest. So the system back there, it kills everything you have, your creativity, and whatever skill you think you have.
Yeah.
So, you only move to where these things could be given life. A breath of life could come into it, and then you see it coming into life at the end of it. Yeah. And that's what happens, yeah.
It's so sad because it's been that way for so long.
It is so sad, I tell you. It's been for a very long time.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you the truth, it's not only Nigeria. And it's not even only Africa. There are places things like that goes on. Sometimes they try to cover up and stuff like that.
Mm-hmm. So tell me about your book.
It's a story partly born from my personal experience. It's about a system that has been held captive. It's a system that a group of people decide to hijack a government. And they hijacked the government. They took control of every organs of the government, including the police, the military, the judiciary. They're all corrupt under the same system. It is a system with a lot of killings, and these are just killings that are done almost on a daily, And basically, the police, they use them as machinery for these killings. It could be the executive powers. And then it's just oppression in every area, including rape, and every other thing happens. And the people, they are so scared. Yeah, this reign of terror has gotten so bad that they're so scared and they couldn't talk, because if you talk, they're going to find a way. They have their informants everywhere. They're going to find a way. They're going to eliminate you. So everyone decides to be quiet, and they're just suffering out of this situation. And then there doesn't seem to be any way out for them. So their life has become a total misery. It's a horror, everything that goes on each day. So And they really need someone to help them because they really can't help themselves. Because when you suffer an injustice, normally you go to try to seek justice for the injustice. But when you know you can't get justice for it, so you just sit back and then you accept it as a normal.
Right.
So right now, but there is this group, they are statesmen. They are very great men who wants the best for the country, and this whole thing, the bleeding of the economy, it's so bad, and they don't find it funny. And then they decided to meet outside of the very country. They meet outside, they talked about what to do, how to rescue the country. And they came up with the idea that they had to get someone who's going to help them rescue the situation. And getting someone, it has to be a professional. When I say professional, it's someone who's equally dangerous in the field they operate. It's going to be someone who's going to go in there and he's going to take care of this whole situation and try to get the country out of these people from their grip and save the people. So it's all about trying to restore the nation back to its people and try to free them from all these oppressions and all the tyranny and all the rest of them. So now they were able to get someone with a very strong, solid credential. Is a person that has been a commando. In a commando is a person that has been a U.S. Marine. It's a person that has a track record for ruthlessness. It's a person that has a record for taking care of things like this. So, but the tax would be a very terrible one because for the very first time, he hasn't embarked on such a journey that has to do with trying to take down a government that is run by tyranny. So it was a very terrible tax for Jerry Kingston because that's his name. So, but in all odds, he was faced with a terrible fear when he got to understand that someone he has known in the past who is equally as ruthless as he is has been hired to take him down. And of course, this was after his ally, he had an African ally that was working close by him. They have both of them has been in Vietnam, and then they have been pals for a long time. And then his ally was suddenly killed in this same mission. But even before he went on this assignment, his ally warned him when he mentioned the place that was involved. His ally told him, "You don't go these areas because they're dangerous areas. They don't have laws. They're lawless. They kill people. Nothing happens. I mean, you could be killed, and there will be no case about it. So you don't have to go. It's really, really a bad news. Don't go there." So, but he was insistent because he knows what he wanted to do. He has to find a way to free these people. He has been commissioned to go ahead and do this job. So, and that's his job. He is a professional, like I said. So he has been commissioned on the contract terms by this G7 group to go and rescue these people and free them from tyranny. Of course, it's a very huge task. When you have to maneuver your way, you have to know what you do. The police, the army, and everything, they are all complicit in this whole thing, you know. So it's really tricky. So, but then when his ally that he's working with was eventually killed in the most gruesome way, and then that was where he became panic-stricken. And then he knew his life was also in danger because the person that is now coming after him is a person he knew so well to be very, very ruthless. He has no heart at all. So that was it. So he had to fight his way through. And he almost did lose his life, actually. He almost did. Yeah, but at the end of the day, he was able to get the whole thing in place. He changed the system. He made a police reform. He made the military reform. And then at the end of the day, they got the puppet president because they planted a puppet president that they were using and they were doing all the stuff. So he was able to do the assignment almost at the expense of his life. So it also had some tinge of romantic part of it also.
It sounds like this is your dream for your own country, is that somebody could just come in.
Yeah. Just like I told you that most writers, their ideas is formed around sometimes their own personal experiences.
Yeah.
And sometimes it could be story being told to them, and sometimes it could be what they observe around the environment. So it forms the idea for a story.
Right.
And then the story and then the plot and stuff like that. But it's quite an interesting story. It is. Yeah, I tell you, it is. A lot of action. Yeah.
Americans have no idea the oppression around the world.
No, they don't.
And kids in school feeling their own oppression, just like you, want to write. And to be able to talk about that in the setting of a library and how you formulated the idea to write this book is pretty interesting for any kid who wants to write or any adult who wants to write, because people don't believe it. They really don't
They
believe
really
it.
don't. Yeah, yeah. I mean, it's when you tell someone that a policeman could shoot a person in the broad daylight, shoot a person, and what's the reason? Maybe he tried to extort him for some money, and the person refuses,
Mm-hmm.
and then he kills him,
Mm-hmm.
and nothing happens after that.
Right.
So you just wouldn't believe a thing like that could happen
No.
in real life.
So, I mean, you've got a great story worth sharing, and you're going to keep writing, right?
Yeah, I have a book that should be out it should be ready by October.
Okay.
Yeah, that's the title is The Gift from a Ghost.
Okay.
It's a very, very wonderful story.
Okay.
Very, very wonderful story, yeah.
I believe you. Thank you so much. It was such a pleasure talking to you. Thank you.
All right. Yeah, appreciate it. Yeah.
A drama teacher in a California school district, T. Michelle, has a message for all of us in her children's book entitled, "Could You Please Tell Me Which Way South?" Now, you've been writing a long time.
Yes, I actually started writing at the age of 9.
Wow, that's young. You were young.
Yeah, so when I was young, my dad, he used to have like little tea parties with me, and he used to. I was spoiled, but yeah, he used to tell me bedtime stories, and I think it was 2 of them that were my favorite. Was Goldilocks and the Three Bears, and the other one was the Three Little Pigs. And he used to always puff up his cheeks and be all extra animated, and and those things you carry with you, as adults.
Aww.
I'm now realizing the importance of that, and my mom. Now, she was more of you're going to do, well in school, and you're going to make sure that I want you to start reading and, understanding what you're reading and, that type of thing. So she used to have me at an early age, pick out a book from the library, and then she would tell me to read. And then I had to either tell her or write what I read about. So to make sure I understand what I'm, reading. And those skills actually enhanced me and helped me to have an interest in reading and writing.
That's awesome. So what made you decide I have to publish a book right now? This is your first book, right?
Yes, actually, I have a lot of stories, but this one I've written a while ago, and it was actually, I would say life started happening, and I just kept putting it aside. I did have people trying to push me, just go ahead and publish, just go ahead and publish. And then I didn't know what direction to go with it. So it was a huge factor. So this was my first story that I've written years ago when my son was small. So he was the one that inspired me to write it.
How old was he?
He was about 2, and I've written a couple of them during that time. Just thinking about life and persevering and just having an inspiration when it comes to animals. Because, in my family, we love animals.
So tell me what your book's about.
So could you please tell me which way to the south is about a little bird that actually was supposed to be flying to the south with a flock of other birds, and his mother bird was trying to prepare him, but unfortunately he got left behind. So he had to figure out, how can I find my family? Where did they go? So he had his little adventure, on trying to figure out how to find everyone else through this storm that happened, not knowing how he was going to be able to cross through the storm to try to find the rest of his family, not even knowing which direction to go. So because he kept pushing and, it took the strength and determination to talk to other animals or, whatever kept crossed his path, they were able to kind of help lead him to the path to be able to find the flock. So he came across, we had a cow, a butterfly, a kite, came across a crocodile.
That helped him, pointed him in the right direction.
Yes, So the message was, now Little Bird could have either stayed and just, was upset and cried over the circumstance and not did anything at all, and he would not have ever found the flock, or he could have went and did the best that he could to try to weather the storm, look which direction, see where to go, or when I asked for help, whatever he had to do to try to reach his destination. And that's what he did. He made the decision that I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to push through, and I'm going to go ahead and make sure that I find the rest of the flock, my mom. So it was his determination that helped him to be able to accomplish his goal, So the message is pretty much, you can weather anything, storms come and go in life. And if you can go through the storms in life and just push through it, you'll persevere, you'll make it. So that's the message is, weathering the storm and just flying through it.
That's great. I love that. Now, when your son was little and you put this story together, did you used to tell him this story?
Yes. I used to read it to him numerous times.
So when you told him, hey, guess what? I published that story. I used to read to you all the time. What did he say?
He was excited. He was very excited. There's a couple of them that I've written for him, but he was really happy, excited, and one of my biggest cheerleaders.
How old is he now?
He is 28.
Oh my gosh. It really took you a while to get this one out there.
Yes.
Well, good for you. It's about time.
Thank you. Thank you.
Now, you work in a school system. Will they let you bring your book in and read it to kids?
Actually, yes, there's been a couple of teachers that asked me to come in and read for their students. So, yeah, I am definitely planning to do that. And also, before it was published, I did get a chance to read to my drama club students. So, and they really liked it. And they were the ones that, said, yeah, Miss T, go ahead. You should go ahead and do it.
That's great. Could they act it out? Maybe you should do like a play.
Right?
Turn it into a play.
I could actually, a lot of my stories I have. Yes.
So once you wrote this story, you continued writing. And now how many stories do you have that maybe you could publish?
Oh, wow. I have maybe about 8 stories. And I have 3 novels I'm being worked on right now.
Wow. Are you on a roll now? Are you going to keep going with this? You're going to just keep publishing?
Oh, most definitely. Most definitely.
Yeah.
I'm definitely going to be pushing out the stories.
How did it feel when you got this book?
Amazing.
Yeah.
Yes, this is a wonderful feeling. It was like something that I envisioned and actually got to see it happen, in real time. So it was definitely a blessing.
This podcast is all about, writers, mostly first-time authors who've always wanted to write. They finally get the opportunity to do it. What do you have to say to people listening? They want to get it out there, but they just haven't been able to take that step.
First, I would say don't wait as long as I did. I would say, definitely, if you have that gift of writing, push it out. Go ahead and, you want the world to, especially if you have something in you that you want to share with the world, push your stories out, be confident with it, God will make a way for it to happen. The right people will come your way. Don't worry about all that. Just write. All you do is just write and then just go ahead and push it out the best way that you can. And it will happen. One thing that we do as people is we say, oh, it can't, or I'm not sure. And you're going to have to be able to erase all that from your brain and just know that you can do anything. If you really want to do it, you will be able to do it. So.
Thank you. What a great message. Thank you so much.
Yes. Thank you.
Well, listen, good luck getting this book out there. You're lucky you're a teacher. I mean, you're lucky you're in a school system, because I talk to people who don't have access to a school system. They don't have kids. Their kids are grown up. And this is a wonderful children's book with a great message. So, consider yourself very lucky to have an avenue to get it out there.
Oh, thank you. I appreciate you.
All right. Listen, you have a great day.
You too. Take care.
Katherine Gillespie is an avid reader, and when she's not writing, she's finishing up her bachelor's in communications. Even the Fates Cannot Save You Now is her first published book. And tell me, what writers inspire you?
I'm a heavy fantasy reader, so I love Sarah J. Maas and all of her books. I've read all of them. Rebecca Yarros is one of my favorites right now. Just fantasy, and I like a good romance too.
Have you written any other stories?
I've written a couple short stories. I never really did anything with them though before this. And then I have plans to write and finish like more within the world of this book.
All right. So what made you decide I have to publish this right now?
Some very good friends who convinced me when they read what I had written so far that it was worth it.
From what I've read about Even the Fates Cannot Save You Now, it seems like you have a real affinity for Greek mythology.
I have a mini obsession.
And what sparked that obsession?
I took like an elective course when I was in middle school that was like centered on Greek mythology that my middle school offered, and it kind of sparked there. And then my uncle is huge history buff, like gigantic, and Greek mythology is also a thing that he likes to focus on too. So he and I will debate and talk all day long about the different stories and different characters.
Did it take you a while to formulate a story based on these characters from Greek mythology?
Definitely took a lot of research. A lot of the time that writing this story kind of took up was more of like trying to iron out the little details and how I wanted to make characters that are already kind of very well known and kind of make them more my own. Like little spins that I wanted to take on them to make them more relatable and less just, the stoic history characters that we know for the most part.
So how do you lay out the book?
So I definitely have like the characters that we already know from the, history in there. Hades, Persephone, Apollo. I have those characters and they're in there a little bit, but my main focus is like their kids and kind of like a next generation situation. So it focuses mostly on my main character, Luna, is Hades and Persephone's long lost daughter. So it focuses on her and then her love interests, which are Apollo and Aphrodite's triplet sons.
Triplet sons, okay.
So it is definitely kind of a whirlwind, I would say. It kind of opens up with Luna living on her own. She doesn't really know what's going on. She doesn't know who she is. She grew up in foster care. And then one day she's working and she gets kidnapped by some random guy that shows up at the bar sometimes. And he tells her that, she is more powerful than she knows, more powerful than anybody knows, and she just cannot be allowed to survive. So she kind of freaks out a little bit, which I feel is understandable.
Yeah, I would say so.
And when she starts asking all these questions of the guy, like, who are you? What are you talking about? Like, I didn't do anything. These two guys, these two twins, show up and they save her. And they're like, you're coming with us. And she goes with them. And they take her back to their house. And there's another one. So it's not twins, it's triplets.
So this is set in modern day.
It is modern day. It's kind of its own little world. It's definitely placed in like a modern day situation. She works at a modern bar and there's modern technology involved and she lives on her own and that kind of thing.
Does she have any idea of the power she has?
To a certain degree, she knows that randomly when she gets like heightened emotions, like really happy or really sad, these like green sprouts almost like flowers will start popping out of her skin. But besides that, she has no idea.
But the brothers, the triplets, they do know who she is and what she can do.
Yes. So one of them, his name is Asher. He has the power of prophecy. His dad's Apollo, and one of Apollo's powers is also prophecy. Like that's just one of the things he oversees. And they have been aware of her existence their entire lives because of the prophecies that both Asher and his father have had.
So how does she feel about being kidnapped?
She does not believe them to begin with, which I can say I would not either. But they chose to take her when they chose to rescue her and take her back to their home. It was because the timelines had finally synced up, and there is a prophecy that she will become the next queen, that she will defeat the current king of gods.
Whoa. So they feel like they need to protect her.
Yes.
Okay, I love the way you weave in Greek mythology. I really do. I think that's might pique some interest in your readers to maybe find out more about the real Greek mythology characters, right?
Yeah, for sure. I always like bringing attention to it. I know that like typically in like regular history classrooms, I feel like the Romans get way more attention than the Greeks do.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
so if this can bring a little bit of attention to Greek mythology too, I know I've always enjoyed it, so I can share a little bit of that with other people.
Anything from your life interweaved into your story?
Not necessarily. I think that like I can see myself a lot in my main character and her personality and just like her abrasiveness,
Mm-hmm.
and her honesty. And at the time when I wrote the book, we had the same hair color, but that's it.
Not anymore, huh?
I dye my hair a lot.
All right, well, you go, man. Okay. Now, do you wrap this up in one book or are there more coming?
I kind of wrapped it up, not fully. I leave it open at the end, I would say. I have plans for a second book. I just haven't like fully developed anything yet.
But you have 2 other books that are already written?
Separate series. They're not like out in the world or anything like that. It's just 2 little things that I've developed on my own.
And how is this book different? Why did you put this one out there first?
I was really proud of it. It was like fully put together, and like I felt I'd had like a friend of mine read it, and she was a great kind of cheerleader for me. She was like, "You have to let other people read this. You have to get it out there." And so I kind of just sent it out to my who ended up becoming my publisher, and they loved it, and they contacted me, and we kind of went from there. But it was one of those fully developed stories that I feel don't always happen that often. And I could just kind of see the world play out in my mind.
All right. How are you making out letting people know that this book is out there?
Well, I have a lot of people behind me, friends, family, social media that I'm getting kickstarted. There's some great little bookstores around me that I'm going to reach out to, but I'm hoping that kind of like word of mouth works a lot, and like recommendations. And I'm a big fan of Goodreads as well. So just kind of like, hey, one of those things, especially with my friends, like, hey, if you read the book, just leave a review online so other people know that it is worth taking a look at.
Are you talking about it at all on social media?
Definitely. I have kind of already started putting some feelers out on TikTok. I have a separate account that I'm using to try and like post different things about certain plot points in the story and that kind of thing that I've kind of thrown out there. I've gotten quite a few views, like 1 or 2 comments, but I haven't been like fully focused on it. I know we're working on like building like my social media presence up more, so I'm sure that it'll get heavier as we go on.
So you're going to have to keep on publishing.
I am going to do my best. I love to write. It is definitely a great stress reliever for me. I'm always writing something, whether it's, a part of a bigger whole or not. It's a different story, but I'm always writing. So.
All right. It was great talking to you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for reaching out.
You got it. Sabine Torres has written her first book of poetry based on some dramatic events that have taken place in her relatively short life in Salt Lake City. And you just started writing a few years ago, right?
I started writing mostly to deal with thoughts that I had.
What kind of thoughts?
I was mostly depressed as a kid.
Aw.
So I had a lot of trauma. I went to therapy though, so.
Okay. What kind of trauma are you talking about?
I had some traumatic events of my parents almost getting killed in front of me, and rape, and a lot of other issues that were going on. So I was very depressed and anxious.
Oh, I'm so sorry.
It's okay. Therapy worked.
It worked. It's over. It's done. You're good now?
Yeah. I just put it in a deep hole, and I'm like, yeah, I'm not gonna go back in there again.
God, what happened with your parents?
So we have this vacation home where we go every winter, every year. We stay there for 3 months. And
where did you go?
Honduras.
And no good.
Yeah, I had one event that wasn't very good.
Are these the events that, inspired your writing?
Yeah, it did. So most of the things that I've lived, I just kind of write them in some sense. I don't put it into full detail, but I do kind of talk about it in the book. And I just want people to know that they're not alone. And I thought that would be an easier way to like let people know that they're not alone in this world. Like, traumatic events happen all the time to good people and bad people. We're not perfect, and that's okay.
All right. So give me an example of an event in your life that inspired a poem.
I was 16. I decided to drink, and I got pretty messed up to the point where I had to go to a hospital because apparently my heart had stopped. I had way too much alcohol in my blood, and they had to bring me back to life for a second there. So my dad was there, and I remember just looking at him, and he was like tearing up. And I felt so bad because at that time I was really depressed and just wanted to die. Like, I was ready to go. I was 1 foot out already. I was like, I don't want to do this anymore. I'm pretty irritated. Everything in life is not making sense for me, and I don't enjoy it. So I did that. That's one of the poems that's in there. So,
Do you think you were trying to kill yourself?
yeah, I remember saying to myself that day, I was just going to have a lot of alcohol to the point where I couldn't remember anything. And I remember reading something about intoxication. Like, it takes a young person to be like maybe 4 bottles of vodka by themselves to completely be gone. So I was like, okay,
Oh my God.
yeah. By that time, I had been raped and I had lived some scary stuff that you would only see in movies for some reason. It just happened, and I was getting a lot of deja vu, and I started feeling like I was going crazy.
And your parents knew that you were going through all this, or did you hide it from them?
I hid it from them.
Do you feel like they're on your side now?
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I talked about it after therapy, and yeah, it helped.
And I guess writing about it helped too.
It did. After that whole situation, I started writing, and I just kept the poems to myself. And later on, I met someone, and we were talking about dreams and things we wanted to do by the time we were like 40. And I was like, I want to write a book. I've always wanted to write a book, but I just don't know what about. And I showed them some of my poems, and then eventually, young love, we're like, okay, yeah, this is love. No, it's not.
Oh, well, sometimes people just come into our lives for a certain period of time and, leave us with something positive. And in this case, you got your book started.
Yeah, that happened to me. So I wrote some about that.
Are you going to keep writing?
Yeah, I still write, but now I just post them on Instagram. I have an Instagram page where I just post them.
Are you talking about your book on Instagram?
Yeah, I am. I know some people have gotten it and they enjoy it, and that's good, I guess. But the book is just out there. I don't really care about the money that comes from the book. I mostly just care that people who enjoy poetry and daydream, and have issues that they could relate to. That's the whole point of the book, just to relate to something.
But you feel like your life is back on track.
Oh, yeah.
So what are your plans from here?
Keep working, keep writing, just enjoy life a bit since I'm in my 20s.
Okay.
There's no rush until 25. That's when I'll start rushing into going to college, maybe.
Okay.
Get a degree of business and start building a business from there.
Okay, good. Do you think you'd ever write a story, like a story about your life?
I'm actually working on that. Yeah.
All right. Hey, anything can happen from here on out. You're young, you're talented.
Thank you.
It's all up from here.
Yes, please.
All right. Thank you. I'm glad I was able to track you down.
Thank you.
You have a great day.
You too. Bye-bye.
We hope you enjoyed this edition of the Reader House Author Roundtable, where authors from all walks of life come together to discuss the trials, tribulations, and triumphs of publishing their books. I'm Alice Stockton Rossini. We hope to see you back here every Saturday night at 8 o'clock, or listen to our podcast anytime on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Stitcher, TuneIn, and PodServe, just to name a few. The Author Roundtable is sponsored by ReaderHouse Online Bookstore, where independent new authors come first.